Welcome to this special edition of Business Mentorship Keeping It Real, where we are collaborating with the Enthuse Foundation, who support female entrepreneurs through education, mentorship, and grant funding. Emily and Drew were winners in last year's pitch competition, which was held in November of 2023. They are co-founders of Resist, a healthy snack, plant-based nutrition bar. Drew joins us from New York City, and Emily from Culver City, California. They join us today to share their experience as co-founders and how receiving a grant has created opportunities for positive change and growth. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome both Drew and Emily.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for having us.
Well, I guess I should start by congratulations to you both on becoming one of the grant recipients for the event. I know that Drew was your lead person, and as I watched it online, so she was the one up there doing the pitch for you. So congratulations to you both. I'm sure that it's been really quite wonderful. You've got about 5 months under your belt now since the grant happened. So what's happened since last November? What's changed in your business? Emily, give us an idea as to what's changed since you received this grant.
Yeah, we've been going through a lot of retail growth within the last few months, but focusing more on the grant, we've been able to apply to ads. We've never paid for ads up until a few months ago. Finally put the bullet and went for it. And Drew's been masterminding behind it. And we've just seen we've seen successes, but we've also seen falls from it. But we're learning so much, and it's really been exciting to try out.
Well, now, Drew, give us a little bit of any ideas to your experience doing the pitch, because there was not only a live audience virtual, which is where I was participating, but you also had an audience in person. So what was that like to present your business and in front of that live audience?
Yeah, we're lucky in the sense that we have been able to pitch before, and each time you do it, you get better and better. And it gets more and more natural. And you also start to recognize what people are responding to. So, and then expand on those areas and focus. And I think, so lucky to be someone who has acting training, because it definitely helps up on stage, make you feel a little bit more relaxed. I think also something that I've realized is that it's so easy to fall into a kind of motor mouth situation and just find yourself speeding through. But what we found is that it is so much more valuable to really take your time and focus on the elements that really mean something and really matter to you, and that you've also seen the audience respond to previously, than try and fit everything in. And we only had 4 minutes up on stage. So
exactly.
Yeah, you probably could tell, like every participant was really trying to fit it all in. So it's really hard to fit a business. Basically, all founders, I think, feel this way. It's your baby. How can you fit this, immense thing into just 4 minutes? And so, I think we, with plenty of practice and, just lots of zhuzhing, we definitely got there. But I think it was our best pitch yet. And I guess, you get better and better every time.
Yeah, exactly. But, I really love that you mentioned it takes practice, because I think, when you're a viewer watching things like that, you think, oh, that looks so easy, but there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, especially to make sure that that deck is really crisp and you've got everything that you need, to convey. Now, Emily, we know that Drew's background is marketing, and give us a little bit of insight into the area of expertise that you bring into this co-founder relationship.
Yeah, so my background is the food world. Kind of all started when I was a little girl. I was raised without red meat. We never had boxed cereal in the house. So I was always very conscious of food and the impact it had on your health. So undergrad, I had my master's in marketing and communications. And then after undergrad, I really realized all the issues in the food industry, and I needed to be a part of it to help fix it and just bring awareness. So I went back to school and I got my master's in food studies from NYU, just to really learn more and become more well-versed with everything that was going on. Worked for a few food startups, and then I met Drew through NYU. So food has just always really been my path, my career path. And I've always known that I've wanted to be part of a startup to help change the industry and bring the conversations to life.
Well, what I find really interesting, and maybe it's unique to your co-founder relationship, is you're on both sides of the continent, right? I mean, one's in the East and one's in the West. Now, that must have pros and cons, right? So maybe, Drew, you can give us an indication as to what would be one of the wonderful things that happens when you have those two polar opposite areas geographically, and what is one of the challenges?
Definitely a benefit is that your reach expands. It really takes divide and conquer to a new level, which is amazing when you're in the food space because, the goal is to expand, reach as many people as possible, focus on our mission to become more accessible and make it really easy to eat for blood sugar on the go. So getting into more hands, that is definitely made much more simple and easy. And it also helps us divide work in some ways. It's like, I'm focusing on this area and you're focusing on that area, and we can do that separately, even if we're focusing on kind of the same day-to-day activities. There's obviously some cons to not being together. It definitely forces us to be really intentional with our time, because when you're a 3-hour difference, we only have 5 real hours of working time where we can really be engaging together and focusing. That's a pro and a con, because it does give us both 3 hours bookended on each other's day to just really zero in on what we are personally working on and just knock that stuff out before the day really starts. But it's definitely inspired us to get really creative with the way that we set up our schedules, so that we can really be as, productive as possible. But I will say, I think that the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And it's definitely led us both, I think, and Emily, I hope you agree here, to be very independent and be able to achieve things fast and on our own, so that when we come back together, we can just move quickly. And as a 2-person team, that is like invaluable.
Yeah, for sure. Emily, what are your thoughts on the pros and cons?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything Drew said. Plus, me being here, you get a better version of me than me living in New York. But yeah, the cons are obviously the time difference, but
Right.
I think that we've managed our schedules and our meetings and how the day looks very well. And just, again, like being able to be in 2 different markets, 2 different consumers, because what I've noticed living in New York and LA, the health and wellness, blood sugar, stability, like our customer looks very different in each city. Even though they have the same interests, it's a very different person. So being able to interact with the both of them and understanding them at different levels has been super interesting and very insightful to where we want to grow, how we're messaging, and even places we're demoing or reaching out to.
So since you've received the grant and you've got all of this wonderful intel through the Enthuse Foundation, because I know they share a lot of business and marketing tips with you along the way to sort of support your growth within your own industry. But what would one of the things be that you've noticed? You mentioned that you were able to go into paid advertising, because that's a huge leap, right? I mean, we all know that in the beginning, we're pouring the money back into the business in terms of product development and, the various ways in which you're touching on the retail market. Now, one of the ways that you were marketing was you were marketing through various organizations that would help you expand your reach through the medical profession. So have you gone now direct to consumer in the retail space?
Yes. So we've kind of, when we first started, we definitely were like, we're going to be omni-channel. We're going to hit our direct consumer website, our Amazon. We're going to reach people in stores. And we definitely started out, as far as our go-to-market retail-wise, with doctors' offices, medical spas. We have found, kind of on a separate note, like engaging with doctors as a recommender has been a really, really powerful thing, because when you're recommended a product by a medical professional, it is,
Builds trust.
Builds trust, and
Yeah.
you don't change the brand once you do that. So it's definitely helped with our lifetime value and definitely driven people into stores, which we're super excited about. But like you said, when you're pouring money back into the business, it makes you really, really analyze cash flow. So that's been something we've been thinking a lot about, because I'm sure most founders out there, regardless of industry, if they're product focused, know that, you know, your best margin is going to be with your own channel. So
Your own
your direct
channels. Yeah.
consumer site. And so that has been, we've poured a ton of effort into that and beautifying that and making sure that, yes, when we are paying for those ads, we are driving people to a site that they can trust, that they
Right.
know, that we know will convert them. But on the other side, we're also, you know, at the same time focusing very intently on retail. And this has definitely been the year of retail for us, and will be for the foreseeable months, as we really focus on expanding. And a part of that is engaging with distribution. So that has been, you know, a big part of our lives, and really zeroing in on setting ourselves up for success.
Right, for sure. Now, Emily, what about distribution and manufacturing of the product? Because growth and development doesn't happen if the product's going to be late. So how has that impacted your day to day? Because clearly, you know, your divide and conquer. I love your divide and conquer attitude, but clearly that means, well, one's working on marketing, the other one must be working on product distribution and manufacturing. So has that affected your day to day, you know, to-do list?
Yeah, we've definitely put in some more meetings, I guess. So regular conversation with our co-packer, just to make sure we're on the same page, go over feedback we're getting from customers about the recipe, how to make them better. So we definitely implemented a lot more conversations in regards to that. And then distribution, we've really narrowed in on focusing more time on distribution and making those connections. So we've scheduled 2 days a week, big chunks of time to reach out to retailers by phone call, which has been such a game changer in our outreach method and making those connections. So we've really just kind of restructured our days and our meetings to build on that.
You know what? I love the fact that you're making telephone calls with retailers because, you know, in our digital world, everybody thinks all we have to do is send an email or send someone a DM. And that's the only way that, you know, businesses will flourish without that one-to-one connection. But it's not true. I seriously feel that we really do need to pick up the phone. So I love the fact that you're making a connection with your distribution channels by actually talking to them.
Yeah, and I will say I've actually really grown to love that period. I would love to just send an email or a DM, but getting on the phone, people have also been so nice. We've been focusing on Texas lately, and the people answering the phone have been so nice, and it's just been such a great conversation as well. And also when you're working remotely and working from home by yourself, being able to have those conversations too, it's actually been really nice.
Well, it's kind of inspirational, right? Because when they tell you how wonderful your product is, or they give you feedback, direct to consumer feedback, it can be really motivating to say, oh my gosh, we're doing the right thing, right? We're on the right path. Totally. Because I think as founders, we often think, oh, geez, am I really doing the right thing? Like, you know, I've had this great idea and I have so much, but it's taking so long because sometimes it feels like it's taking forever, right? Yeah. To get to market and to see the cash flow, to Drew's point, right? I mean, taking a look at cash flow gets really sticky in year 2 and 3.
Yeah. Right? And it's stressful.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Now, in terms of mentorship, because I know part of the grant program through Enthuse is they connect you with various different industry leaders. So has there been one individual or a topic that has come to across your desk that you've been connecting with someone that's really push the needle for growth and development?
So with the grant that we won, it was the Audience Choice Grant. So as far as mentorship, it's mostly focused on kind of the Enthuse Foundation itself, which is definitely more marketing and pitch focused. So, I mean, and I think I might have said this in our first conversation, but the pitch feedback has been incredibly, incredibly helpful. And I think, again, it goes to like, this is your baby and you have so many thoughts and ideas of what you should say and how detailed you want to get. And like, oh, but I need to explain X, Y, Z. And they've been incredibly helpful to be like, you can't say it all in this amount of time. And what you just need to get across is the main idea, the main points, and the fact that your slides can't be insanely detailed,
Right.
because you have probably 10 seconds or 15 seconds for someone to be looking at the slide, and you also really want them to be paying attention to what you're saying.
For
So
sure.
that has been incredibly helpful. And in the years since, because we've applied multiple times, and this is obviously the time that we were able to compete and win, but in the past years as well, we had the opportunity to have them look at our pitch deck multiple times,
Sure.
really
Sure.
watch that growth, which was amazing. And we have more meetings coming up with them, so that's another opportunity for us to continue this relationship.
Do you get to reconnect with the other folks who were presenting and pitching at the same time? Because clearly you all have some symmetry in, I mean, it's designated specifically for food and beverage industry. So we all know that you have some similarities in, and maybe even target markets may be similar. But do you get the chance, like Emily was a little bit out of the loop because she was in California, you were in New York. Have you had a chance, Emily, to meet with some of the other founders virtually to sort of share your stories?
Yeah, I haven't. That's a great point, though. I do think we should follow up with them. I think that those are great conversations to have, and we've gotten so much insight from other female founders. So that's definitely a useful resource that we appreciate.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think that we forget is we can just ask.
Totally.
Right? We're so intimidated sometimes to think that, oh, I don't want somebody to think I don't know that. Or, if I'm running my own business, I'm supposed to know everything, right? But sometimes just picking up the phone and asking, you can get so much more information. And there's such a wealth and breadth of sharing that can happen. And I would assume that, when I was listening to the other pitches, there's so many amazing businesses out there. Why not help each other, right?
Yeah,
totally. And we've made a point to talk with other female founders and have become really close with a lot of them. And every time we have these calls, it's so refreshing, and it's almost like a therapy session, because you go back and forth based on what you're doing, but also the issues, and you realize that there is no rule book. We're all kind of just out here doing it. And if someone has a tip that works for them, it's so great hearing and also being able to share. Those relationships are so important.
Now, one of the things that we do in our guest blog as part of our series is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice for other would-be entrepreneurs or for those business owners who are getting ready for the next phase of growth and development. So I'm going to ask each of you for 3 words of advice, and then sort of wrap up your contribution to our conversation by telling us why you feel that those 3 words are really important. Because you've got a little bit of experience now under your belt. And so, with that comes expertise that you can share with other people. So Emily, why don't you share your 3 words of advice?
I would say building a good support system is so important. People that will just listen, they might not get what's going on, but they're there for you. They'll listen has been super important. Giving yourself a break and maybe a little distance from your business, because the worst thing you can do is just kind of get fatigued from it and overwhelmed by it. So being able to take a step back, give yourself a break makes it much more enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure.
And lastly, just kind of own it. You're doing something amazing. You're doing something no one else has done before. There's no rules. You kind of make it your own and just own what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Drew?
Yeah. So last time I think I said, don't give up. And I still really stand by that. Don't give up. You can outlast the rest of the people for sure, and you'll learn so much along the way. But I'd like to add another one to that one. And I was going to say, just do it. I realize that's been taken. Do it now is going to be my new one.
Yeah, that's so true.
I think, our experience with ads is a really good example of that. It's we had so many reasons to do it and so many reasons to be safe and to be careful. When this is, it's a risky thing to do to start a business. So you might as well be bold and do it now. And you learn and you analyze, and you can always take a few steps back, and you can always take a few steps forward. Like Emily said, and I love it, it's there are no rules. You're making the rules. So might as well just do it now.
Well, you know what? I absolutely love that because I can remember, when I first started my first business, it seemed like there was this ridiculous rule book and we were all, knocking ourselves out to try to follow the rules until you actually realize, yeah, there are no rules. And, and your leadership skills come into play as well as your lifestyle goals and choices, right? So you have to make whatever it is that you feel really passionate about work for you. And I really love the fact that the two of you as co-founders have this wonderful opportunity with an East Coast and West Coast mentality to combine those things for success in your business venture. So kudos to you both. I'd like to thank you both for joining me. And we certainly wish you continued success in the future. And maybe we can continue to stay in touch and you can give us some highlights as things go along.
That sounds amazing.
Well, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you so much.
If you'd like to connect with our guests, their contact information will be found in the description portion below. And I'd like to extend a special thanks to the team at the Enthuse Foundation for all the work that they do to support business innovation and the journey to success. We invite you to subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship Keeping It Real, which is found on YouTube, and visit our website, shareyourstories.online, where we feature business stories from international entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders celebrating their great ideas. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you next time for another edition of Keeping It Real.